Before calendars, before modern life, people gathered for rituals that shaped their days, their nights, and their beliefs. In this video, you'll discover ancient festivals, forgotten ceremonies, moon rituals, fire gatherings, and silent traditions passed down for centuries. Some of them will surprise you. Others might feel strangely familiar. This is not just history. This is how people once lived, together, when time was measured by fire and shadow. Before calendars, before clocks, before years had numbers, time was felt rather than counted. You live in a world where days do not rush forward. They unfold slowly, guided by light, warmth, and the movement of the sky. The sun's position tells you when work begins. The length of shadows tells you when it must end. Night arrives not as interruption, but as fulfillment. In this world, festivals are not entertainment. They are anchors. They hold life together. You feel it most clearly as the season begins to change. The air carries a different weight. The light fades earlier. Animals behave differently. Crops reach their final stage. People notice these signs without speaking about them openly. Observation is instinct. As the change becomes undeniable, preparation begins. Homes are cleaned not for hygiene, but for meaning. Objects are rearranged. Fires are rebuilt. Tools are placed carefully, as if order itself might influence what comes next. These actions are not rushed. Every movement is deliberate. This is how ritual begins. Not with ceremony, but with attention. You walk through a settlement where everyone seems to move at the same pace. There is no signal, no announcement. Yet somehow, everyone knows. The festival is approaching. Children sense it first. Their days become shorter, quieter. Games slow. Questions grow fewer. They feel anticipation without understanding why. Elders feel it differently. They remember previous cycles. They know what this moment demands. They speak less and watch more. At night, fire becomes central. Not just for warmth, but for gathering. People sit closer. Stories shorten. Silence stretches longer between words. The world feels held together by flame and breath. This is the purpose of the earliest festivals. To pause time. To acknowledge that life moves in patterns larger than any single person. That survival depends not only on effort, but on alignment, with seasons, with community, with forces unseen. You are not celebrating abundance yet. You are preparing to face uncertainty together. And as the fire burns steadily, you understand something ancient and fundamental. Festivals were humanity's first way of saying, "We are here. We are together. We will continue." The first festivals were about survival. Long before gods were named, festivals existed. They were born from necessity. You experience this in the way food is handled as a seasonal festival approaches. Nothing is wasted. Portions are measured carefully. Storage areas are checked again and again. What will be consumed during the ritual is chosen with intention. Eating together matters now. Shared meals create certainty. They remind everyone that resources are pooled, not hoarded. That survival is collective. That no one is alone in facing what comes next. You notice how roles emerge naturally. Some prepare food. Others tend the fire. Others arrange spaces where people will sit. No one commands this. Memory guides behavior. Ritual actions repeat across generations because they work. A fire lit at the same place each year. A song sung in the same rhythm. A moment of silence held at the same time of night. These repetitions calm the mind. They create predictability in a world ruled by weather and chance. As darkness deepens, the festival truly begins, not with noise, but with stillness. People stop working. Tools are set aside. Movement slows. Attention turns inward. The fire crackles softly, its sound filling the space where anxiety might grow. You sit among others, feeling the quiet strength of proximity. Bodies close. Breath synchronized. The world outside feels distant. This is why early festivals mattered. They regulated fear. They transformed uncertainty into structure. Hunger into sharing. Darkness into gathering. There is no excess here. No spectacle. Only presence. When words are spoken, they are simple. Gratitude for survival so far. Hope for what lies ahead. Acknowledgement of forces beyond control. These are not prayers yet. They are agreements. Agreements to face the next season together. To endure cold, scarcity, and waiting as a group rather than as individuals. As the night progresses, sleep comes naturally. People rest near the fire, trusting its warmth and the closeness of others. The festival does not end with excitement. It ends with rest. And in that rest, something essential is preserved, not just the body, but the sense of belonging that makes survival possible. When the sun became a promise. You learn very early in human history that the sun is not just light. It is reassurance. Each morning it returns, and with it comes proof that the world has not ended during the night. Each evening it leaves, reminding you that absence is temporary. This daily rhythm becomes sacred long before it becomes symbolic. As seasons pass, you begin to notice something deeper. The sun does not rise and set in the same place forever. Its path shifts slowly across the horizon, almost imperceptibly at first. Only those who watch carefully see the change. Elders point it out without ceremony. A stone placed here. A mark scratched there. Memory reinforced by repetition. This is how solar festivals are born. You do not celebrate the sun because it is beautiful. You honor it because it is dependable. As the year moves toward extremes, toward longest days or longest nights, attention sharpens. People talk less. Observation becomes collective. Everyone looks to the same horizon, measuring not with numbers, but with shared expectation. Preparation begins quietly. The settlement changes pace. Food is gathered and stored with more care. Fires are tended more deliberately. Paths are cleared. Objects are moved to specific places as if the land itself needs to be ready. Children are told to stay close. Not because danger is near, but because importance is. On the day itself, nothing dramatic happens at first. You wake to familiar light. Familiar cold or warmth. The world looks unchanged. Yet everyone feels the weight of the moment. This is not superstition. It is awareness. As the sun reaches its highest or lowest point, people gather. Not to cheer. To witness. Silence stretches. Eyes follow the sky. Breath slows. When the moment passes, when the sun pauses and begins its return, relief moves through the group like a shared exhale. The promise has been kept. This is why solar festivals endure across cultures and centuries. They reassure the human. The longest day and the art of letting go. When the day stretches longer than any other, something unusual happens. Work feels lighter. You notice it in your body first. Movements slow not from fatigue, but from abundance. There is time. Light fills every corner. Shadows shrink. The world feels generous. This is the longest day. The summer solstice is not about urgency. It is about release. People allow themselves to linger. Tasks that usually demand focus are completed easily. Conversations last longer. Laughter appears more freely, though never wildly. Joy here is measured, contained. As evening approaches, no one rushes indoors. The light remains, soft and endless. Fires are prepared early, not for warmth, but for symbolism. They are placed where they can be seen from far away. When they are lit, they do not compete with the sun. They mirror it. You stand near the flames, feeling warmth layered upon warmth. Heat from the sky. Heat from the earth. Heat from the gathered bodies around you. This festival is not about asking. It is about gratitude. Food is shared openly. Portions are generous. This is allowed because the land has given much. Because the days have been kind. Because survival feels assured, if only briefly. Songs are sung, but slowly. Movements repeat, rhythmic and simple. Dancing, where it happens, stays close to the ground. Feet move in patterns that have been practiced for generations. Nothing here seeks excess. Even celebration has boundaries. As the night finally arrives, soft, reluctant, brief, you notice something important. The fire is allowed to burn down naturally. No one rushes to preserve it. This is intentional. The longest day reminds you that abundance peaks. That holding too tightly to fullness creates imbalance. Letting go is part of harmony. When sleep comes, it is light and peaceful. Dreams are quiet. The body rests easily, knowing it has received what it needed. Tomorrow, the days will shorten again. And that is as it should be. The longest night and the discipline of waiting. If the longest day teaches gratitude, the longest night teaches patience. You feel winter's approach long before the solstice arrives. The air grows heavier. Light withdraws earlier each day. Shadows lengthen. Silence deepens. By the time the longest night arrives, everyone is ready. This is not a night to fear, but it is a night to respect. The festival begins before darkness fully settles. Fires are built carefully, protected from wind. Fuel is stacked within reach. Nothing is left to chance. The night will be long, and attention must be steady. You gather closer than usual. Bodies form a circle. The fire sits at the center like a promise that must be maintained. Someone is always watching it. Feeding it. Protecting it. Stories are told, but slowly. Words are chosen carefully. This is not the night for excitement. It is the night for endurance. Outside the circle, the world feels vast and empty. Cold presses inward. Darkness feels almost physical. But inside, the rhythm holds. You notice how often people look at the fire rather than at each other. The flame becomes a focal point, something stable when everything else feels uncertain. Hours pass. No one rushes them. Waiting becomes the ritual. This is the longest night because it represents all nights when hope feels distant. All moments when survival depends on persistence rather than action. As the night deepens, silence increases. Some sleep lightly. Others remain awake, eyes reflecting firelight. There is no shame in either. When dawn finally approaches, slowly, subtly, the shift is felt before it is seen. The air changes. The fire crackles differently. Someone notices a faint lightning at the horizon. No cheer rises. Instead, relief settles quietly. The longest night has passed. The sun will return. And with it, the certainty that waiting, done together, was enough. When the moon watched over everything. Long before the night was understood as empty or frightening, it was guided by the moon. You feel this guidance most clearly when darkness settles without clouds. The sky opens, deep and wide, and there it is, soft, steady, unmoving. The moon does not rush. It observes. People notice its changes instinctively. No one needs to explain when it is growing or fading. The shape alone is enough. A thin curve signals beginning. A full circle signals fullness. Absence signals rest. Moon rituals are never loud. They are shaped by listening. On nights when the moon is full, movement changes. Tasks are completed earlier. People gather outdoors more willingly. Fires are kept smaller, allowing moonlight to dominate. Shadows stretch cleanly across the ground, sharp and clear. You sit beneath this light and feel time slow. This is when reflection becomes ritual. People speak quietly about what has passed since the last full moon. Crops checked. Illnesses observed. Journeys remembered. Nothing dramatic, only assessment. The moon becomes a mirror, reflecting not faces, but cycles. In many cultures, the moon is associated with protection. It watches while others sleep. It guards the threshold between waking and dreaming. Children are encouraged to sleep where moonlight can touch them gently, believed to bring calm dreams. As the night deepens, silence grows. Not forced silence, but accepted silence. Words feel unnecessary. The moon has already acknowledged everything that matters. When clouds eventually drift in, covering the light, no one reacts with alarm. The ritual has already done its work. Visibility fades, but certainty remains. The moon will return. And with it, the reassurance that change happens gradually, predictably, and without demand. The harvest and the ritual of enough. The harvest festival begins long before the first celebration. You feel it in the slowing of work. In the way crops are inspected more carefully. In the silence that follows each completed task. The land has given what it will give, and now it must be acknowledged. Harvest rituals are not about abundance alone. They are about limits. You gather what is ready, not everything. Some is left behind deliberately, an offering not to gods alone, but to balance. The earth must not be emptied completely. When the day arrives, people assemble in daylight. Baskets are placed where all can see them. Grain, fruit, roots, each arranged visibly. Nothing is hidden. This transparency matters. You notice how food is touched gently. Not with hunger, but with respect. This is not consumption yet. It is recognition. As the sun lowers, fires are lit. Not many. Just enough to mark space and gather attention. The food is prepared slowly. Nothing rushed. The smell alone signals fulfillment. When eating begins, it happens together. No one starts alone. This pause creates unity. It ensures that abundance is shared, not claimed. Stories during harvest festivals are practical. They recount weather patterns, successes, mistakes. Laughter appears, but quietly. Pride exists, but it is measured. This ritual teaches something essential: survival is not about taking more. It is about knowing when you have enough. As the night ends, leftover food is stored carefully. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is flaunted. The harvest festival closes not with excitement, but with relief. Winter can come now. Preparation has been honored. Dancing so the world would remember its rhythm. Some rituals are meant to be still. Others must move. Dance appears wherever people feel the need to remind themselves that life continues. Not frantic movement, but repetition. Step, pause, turn. Again and again. You join the circle without thinking. Feet follow those before you. The ground becomes familiar beneath repeated motion. There is no lead dancer. No performance. Everyone moves together or not at all. Music is simple. Drums. Clapping. Occasionally a flute. Rhythm matters more than melody. The beat grounds the body. It replaces thought. This dance is not celebration in the modern sense. It is alignment. By moving together, people synchronize breath and heartbeat. Anxiety dissolves. Individual concerns fade. The group becomes a single organism, steady and predictable. You notice how children are included without instruction. They copy movements naturally. Elders move less, but remain part of the circle. Presence matters more than energy. The dance can last for hours. No one checks time. The body decides when to stop. When the rhythm finally fades, stillness feels deeper. The world seems quieter, as if it too has slowed to match the dancers. This is why dance appears in festivals across history. It restores balance not through thought, but through movement. When faces disappeared behind masks. There are moments in history when identity becomes too heavy to carry. In those moments, people choose to set it down. Masks appear in festivals not to frighten, but to release. You feel this the moment one is placed into your hands. It is not decorated for beauty alone. Its shape exaggerates features. Eyes larger. Mouth wider. Expression unfamiliar. When you put it on, something shifts. You are no longer entirely yourself, but you are also not pretending to be someone else. You are suspended in between. And that space matters. In ancient festivals, masks allow behaviors that everyday life restricts. Elders speak freely. The quiet become bold. The powerful step back. Social order softens without breaking. This is not chaos. It is controlled inversion. You notice how carefully this is managed. Masked gatherings follow strict boundaries. They happen only at certain times, in certain places. Fires mark the edges. Music sets the rhythm. When the ritual ends, masks are removed. Nothing carries over. Children learn this early. They are taught that masks are not lies. They are tools. They let the mind rest from responsibility, from expectation, from constant self-awareness. Behind a mask, laughter comes easier. Movement feels lighter. Words feel less weighted. In some cultures, masks represent ancestors. In others, spirits. In many, they represent neither. They represent permission. Permission to step outside daily roles without abandoning them. As the night progresses, masked figures move slowly, deliberately. There is no rush. No frenzy. The ritual depends on pacing. On repetition. On restraint. When the fire dims and the music slows, masks are removed quietly. Faces reappear. Names return. But something has changed. Tension has been released. Burdens shared. Identity refreshed. This is why mask rituals endure across cultures and centuries. They remind people that identity is flexible, and that flexibility is survival. Fire is more than warmth. Fire is never just fire in ancient festivals. You understand this the moment it is lit. The flame is placed carefully, often in a specific location chosen long before the festival begins. Stones form a boundary. Fuel is arranged deliberately. Nothing is random. This fire is not meant to consume quickly. It is meant to last. You feel how attention gathers around it. Conversations orient themselves toward its presence. Bodies arrange in arcs, not circles, leaving space for the fire to breathe. Fire rituals mark transitions. Seasons. Ages. Decisions. They appear when something must be released or protected. You watch as people bring small objects toward the flame. Not offerings of wealth, but symbols. A broken tool. A dried plant. A piece of cloth. Each placed briefly near the fire, then withdrawn or consumed. This action is not dramatic. It is precise. Fire transforms without judgment. It does not ask why something is offered. It simply changes it. This makes fire powerful. During some festivals, people pass near flames deliberately. Not through them, but close enough to feel heat sharply. The sensation anchors the body. It reminds you that life requires care. In other rituals, fires are lit on hills or boundaries. They signal presence. Continuity. Protection. They speak to distant settlements without words. As the night deepens, the fire's behavior changes. Flames shorten. Embers glow. Heat becomes steady rather than intense. This is the stage people wait for. Now, silence settles. The fire no longer demands attention. It supports it. You sit watching the embers, noticing how the mind follows their movement. Thoughts slow. Breathing deepens. Time stretches. Fire rituals often end this way, not with extinction, but with quiet endurance. The fire is allowed to burn itself into rest. And so are you. The Festival of Silence. Not all festivals are loud. Some are built entirely around restraint. You feel this immediately when silence is announced, not as a command, but as an agreement. Voices lower naturally. Movements slow. Even children sense the shift and follow it without instruction. The Festival of Silence often begins before nightfall. Work stops earlier. Tools are cleaned and set aside. Fires are lit low and shielded. This ritual is not about absence. It is about presence without noise. You notice how awareness sharpens when sound recedes. Footsteps feel heavier. Wind becomes audible. Breathing stands out. Silence reveals details usually ignored. People gather not to speak, but to share space. They sit together facing the same direction. No eye contact is required. No gestures demanded. This is difficult at first. The mind seeks distraction. The body fidgets. But gradually, resistance fades. Silence becomes structure. Thoughts slow. Anxiety loses momentum. Time stops pressing forward. In some cultures, this silence honors the dead. In others, it honors the future. In many, it honors the present moment alone. As night deepens, the silence grows thicker, but not uncomfortable. It feels protective, like a blanket drawn over the mind. When the ritual ends, often marked by a single sound, a bell or breath, speech returns slowly. Voices are softer. Words fewer. Nothing has been said. Yet much has been settled. This is why silence appears again and again in ancient festivals. Because sometimes, the most powerful ritual is simply allowing the world to be quiet. Water and the quiet art of renewal. Water enters festivals without drama. It does not crackle like fire or glow like the moon. It waits. It reflects. It receives. And in ancient rituals, this quiet presence becomes essential. You feel it as dawn approaches. Before voices rise, before movement gathers, people walk toward rivers, springs, or basins prepared the night before. The water is cold, even in warmer seasons. This is intentional. Cold sharpens attention. You touch the surface first with your fingers. The sensation pulls you fully into the moment. There is no past here, no future. Only contact. Only breath. Water rituals are rarely rushed. Each action follows another without hurry. Hands are washed slowly. Faces are touched lightly. Sometimes the entire body is immersed. Sometimes only the feet. These rituals are not about cleanliness alone. They are about transition. You notice how people pause after touching the water. A moment of stillness follows, as if something invisible has shifted. This pause matters. It allows the mind to register change. In some traditions, water is drawn before sunrise and kept covered until the ritual begins. In others, it must flow freely, never stagnant. Movement symbolizes continuity. Stillness symbolizes containment. Both are used carefully. Water rituals often open festivals. They prepare the body and mind for what follows. They quiet internal noise. They reset attention. As the ritual ends, people dry themselves slowly. No one rushes back to activity. The water's calm lingers. You return to the gathering space feeling lighter, though nothing tangible has been removed. The change is internal, subtle, effective. This is the power of water in ritual. It does not demand belief. It invites participation. Crossing from one life into another. Some festivals exist for moments that cannot be repeated. They mark the crossing. You feel the weight of this kind of ritual as it begins. It does not involve the entire community equally. Some watch. Some wait. One person steps forward. This is a transition festival. Age, role, responsibility, something has changed. And change must be acknowledged, or it will feel unfinished. You see how carefully the space is prepared. Paths are cleared. Objects are placed in sequence. A beginning point. A middle. An end. The person crossing moves slowly. Each step is deliberate. The pace allows fear to settle, then soften. No encouragement is shouted. Presence is enough. These rituals often involve symbolic actions. A garment removed. Another worn. A tool received. A name spoken aloud for the first time in its new context. You notice how the community participates without interfering. They witness. They confirm. They remember. This matters more than instruction. When the crossing is complete, there is no celebration yet. Silence follows. The person stands still, allowing the change to settle fully. Only then does movement return. Food may be shared. A fire approached. Water touched again. The ritual closes gently, without excess. These festivals exist because transitions are unsettling. They remind individuals that they do not change alone. That identity shifts are held by the group. As you watch, you understand something ancient and precise. Ritual does not create change. It completes it. Words that were meant to last. Not all rituals involve movement. Some are spoken. You sense the importance of this festival the moment people gather closely. Distance shortens. Firelight steadies. Voices lower before anyone speaks. This is the ritual of vows. Words are chosen carefully here. Not because they are magical, but because they will be remembered. In a world without written contracts, spoken promises carry weight. You listen as each person speaks slowly, deliberately. No one interrupts. No one repeats another's words. Originality matters less than sincerity. These vows may bind individuals to the community, families to one another, or leaders to their people. The structure remains similar. Speak clearly. Speak once. Be witnessed. After each vow, silence follows. This pause allows the words to settle. It gives them space to exist beyond sound. You notice how people breathe differently during this ritual. Shoulders lower. Attention sharpens. This is focus without tension. When all vows are spoken, nothing is celebrated immediately. The ritual closes quietly. Fire is tended. People remain together. The meaning will reveal itself over time. This is why vow rituals endure. They transform speech into structure. They turn intention into responsibility. And as the night deepens, you feel the calm certainty that comes from shared commitment. Gratitude after the work is done. When the harvest is complete and storage is secured, a different kind of ritual begins. You feel the shift immediately. The urgency that guided hands for weeks finally loosens. Tools are cleaned and put away with care, not because they will not be used again, but because they have fulfilled their purpose for now. This festival does not ask for more. It acknowledges what has already been given. People gather in smaller groups than before. The mood is quieter, reflective. Food is prepared from what has been saved, not from what was newly gathered. This distinction matters. It reminds everyone that survival is sustained, not renewed overnight. You sit near the fire as elders speak softly about the season that has passed. They recount moments of difficulty without dramatizing them. A storm that nearly ruined crops. A day when the soil resisted every effort. These stories are not warnings. They are confirmations. Confirmation that effort mattered. That patience worked. Gratitude rituals often involve small gestures. A portion of food set aside. A cup poured and left untouched. A brief silence held collectively. These actions are not directed upward or outward. They are inward. You notice how this gratitude feels different from relief. Relief comes quickly and fades. Gratitude settles deeper. It slows the body. It steadies the mind. As the evening deepens, the fire burns low. People leave one by one without announcement. There is no ending signal. The ritual dissolves naturally, like breath. This festival teaches something essential: acknowledgement completes labor. Without it, effort remains unfinished. And as you return home, carrying warmth and fullness within you, the season feels truly closed. Walking together through the dark. Some festivals are meant to move. They begin not in one place, but along a path. You feel the difference as night settles and lanterns are prepared. Each one is checked carefully. Flames are shielded. Handles secured. The light is not meant to dominate the darkness, only to punctuate it. This is the night walk. People gather at the edge of the settlement. No one speaks loudly. The purpose is not conversation, but shared movement. When the first steps are taken, rhythm forms naturally. Footsteps align. Breathing steadies. The lanterns sway gently, casting moving light across the ground. Shadows stretch and merge. You notice how darkness feels different when crossed together. Less empty. Less threatening. The path becomes familiar through repetition. These festivals often trace boundaries: fields, forests, waterlines. Walking them reinforces belonging. It reminds everyone where safety begins and ends. Occasionally, the group stops. Lanterns are raised. A moment of stillness allows listening. Wind. Water. Night creatures. The world reveals itself quietly. No one rushes forward. When the walk ends, the lanterns are extinguished slowly. Each flame is closed with care. Darkness returns fully, but it no longer feels absolute. You return home with a sense of grounding. The night has been acknowledged, not avoided. This ritual teaches trust, not in light alone, but in companionship. Closing the season gently. Every season requires an ending. Not an abrupt one, but a deliberate closing. You feel this festival's purpose as preparation begins. Objects associated with the season are gathered. Tools, decorations, markers. Nothing is discarded carelessly. Everything is accounted for. This ritual is about transition without rupture. People gather once more around a central fire or space. Items are placed one by one. Some are stored. Some are altered slightly. A ribbon removed. A mark erased. A stone returned to its place. These actions signal release. You notice how the body responds. Shoulders lower. Breathing deepens. The mind stops anticipating what is next. As the final gesture is made, silence follows, not heavy, but complete. The season is allowed to rest. This matters deeply. Without closure, cycles blur. Fatigue accumulates. Meaning dissolves. Ritual restores separation. When people leave this gathering, they do so with clarity. The past season no longer demands attention. The next one may arrive in its own time. As you return to your space, you feel balanced. Nothing lingers unfinished. The world feels orderly, even in uncertainty. This is the quiet power of seasonal closure. It teaches that endings, when honored, make beginnings gentler. Calling the rain without demanding it. There are times when effort reaches its limit. You feel this most clearly during dry seasons, when the land hardens and the air carries no promise of relief. People work, wait, observe, but nature remains silent. This is when rain rituals appear. They are not pleas. They are acknowledgments. You gather near open ground, away from roofs and shelter. The sky must be visible, even if it offers nothing in return. Fires are kept low, almost secondary. Attention turns upward. The ritual begins with stillness. Movement is slow and grounded. Feet touch earth deliberately. Hands open, palms upward, not grasping, not closing. This posture matters. It signals readiness rather than demand. You notice how water is used sparingly. A small bowl. A shallow basin. Sometimes just dampened cloth. Excess would be disrespectful. In some traditions, people walk barefoot across soil, reconnecting with the ground's dryness. In others, they trace simple patterns, repeating steps used for generations. The repetition is calming, almost meditative. Voices, if used at all, are soft. Rhythms emerge naturally, breath, step, pause. The body becomes part of the environment rather than separate from it. Rain does not always come. And that is understood. The ritual's purpose is not control, but alignment. It reminds people of dependency without humiliation. It fosters patience rather than frustration. As the gathering ends, no disappointment is expressed. People leave quietly, grounded in the shared experience of acknowledging uncertainty. When rain eventually arrives, days or weeks later, it is remembered. Not as success, but as continuation. This is the wisdom of rain rituals. Acceptance before abundance. The feast that bound everyone together. Feasts are not about indulgence in ancient festivals. They are about synchronization. You feel it as people arrive from different paths, different households, different rhythms of life. The feast brings them into one tempo. Preparation takes time. Food is arranged carefully. Seating follows familiar patterns. Elders positioned where they can see all. Children close enough to observe, far enough to feel free. No one eats immediately. This pause is essential. It allows hunger to soften into appreciation. It aligns breath. It quiets impatience. When eating begins, it does so collectively. No rushing. No competition. Each bite is deliberate. Conversation flows slowly, rising and falling like the firelight. You notice how stories emerge naturally. Not dramatic tales, but recollections. Shared moments. Small events remembered together. These reinforce continuity. Feasts also serve another purpose. They restore equality. Everyone eats the same food. Portions are comparable. Hierarchies dissolve temporarily. This balance stabilizes the community, reminding everyone that survival depends on shared effort. As the feast progresses, energy shifts. Laughter becomes easier. Posture relaxes. The body feels safe. Eventually, eating slows. Plates are cleared without urgency. Leftovers are saved thoughtfully. The feast ends not with fullness alone, but with belonging. This ritual persists across cultures because it satisfies more than hunger. It affirms connection. When time was allowed to slow. Some festivals exist solely to interrupt urgency. You feel this immediately when the pace of life shifts without explanation. Work stops earlier. No tasks are planned. Even movement feels optional. This is the festival of pause. People gather not to act, but to refrain. Tools are set aside. Fires are kept low. Conversation becomes minimal. There is no schedule. Time stretches naturally. You notice how difficult this feels at first. The mind searches for purpose. The body expects instruction. But gradually, resistance fades. Waiting becomes the activity. This ritual teaches endurance without effort. It allows the nervous system to reset. It reminds people that rest is not absence, but necessity. Children are allowed to sleep freely. Elders sit quietly, observing. No one corrects posture or behavior. As night deepens, stars become visible. Attention drifts upward. The world feels vast, but not threatening. The festival ends without announcement. People simply return to their spaces when they feel ready. No moment marks the conclusion. And that is the point. This ritual exists because time, when released from pressure, restores balance. When the year began again. The new year does not arrive with noise. It approaches quietly, carried by expectation rather than announcement. You sense it in the way people prepare their spaces, not by adding more, but by removing what no longer belongs. Ashes are cleared. Old markings are softened. Worn objects are set aside with respect. This festival exists to mark continuity, not novelty. You gather before dawn. The air is still, holding the weight of the year that has passed. No one rushes forward. Everyone waits together, facing the same direction, as if orientation itself matters. The first light appears slowly. It is not brighter than any other morning, yet it feels different. This light is watched, not merely seen. It confirms that time has moved forward without breaking. You notice how people breathe differently now, deeper, steadier. Words are minimal. This moment does not require explanation. Small actions follow. Water is touched. Fire is rekindled from embers saved overnight. Food prepared from stored supplies is shared modestly. These gestures reinforce continuity. What sustained you before will sustain you again. Promises are not shouted here. Intentions are held quietly. Change is acknowledged, but not forced. As the day unfolds, normal activity resumes gradually. There is no dramatic shift. That is the point. The new year integrates seamlessly into life, rather than interrupting it. This ritual exists to remind people that beginnings are not breaks, they are extensions. Starting over without erasing the past. Some festivals focus not on time itself, but on intention. You feel this ritual's purpose as people gather in familiar spaces made subtly unfamiliar. Objects have been moved. Paths altered slightly. The environment signals that something new is allowed to emerge. This is the festival of renewal. It does not deny the past. It rearranges it. You participate in simple actions, washing hands, changing garments, stepping across a marked line. These gestures are symbolic but grounded. They allow the mind to release what has been carried too long. You notice how people approach this ritual individually, yet remain connected. Some move slowly, others decisively. No pace is corrected. Renewal cannot be rushed. As the ritual progresses, small affirmations occur. A nod. A shared look. A hand placed briefly on another's shoulder. These replace speeches. Understanding passes quietly between people. This festival often includes rest. Intentional rest. People lie down during daylight hours, allowing the body to reset. Sleep here is not laziness. It is permission. When activity resumes, it does so gently. Tasks are chosen carefully. Nothing overwhelming. Nothing urgent. This ritual teaches a subtle truth: starting over does not require forgetting. It requires reorientation. You move forward carrying memory lightly rather than dragging it behind you. When light was shared against the dark. Light festivals emerge when darkness feels longest. You understand their necessity as night settles early and lingers. The world feels smaller. Shadows dominate. Yet instead of retreating, people respond by creating light, carefully, collectively. Small flames appear first. Candles. Oil lamps. Torches shielded from wind. Each is carried deliberately, protected by cupped hands. You gather outdoors, where darkness is most complete. Lights are arranged gradually, forming patterns, lines, circles, clusters. No single flame dominates. Together, they change the landscape. This festival is not about brightness. It is about presence. You feel it as people move slowly through illuminated paths. Light guides without forcing. It reveals without overwhelming. The darkness remains, but it no longer feels absolute. Children are often central to this ritual. They carry smaller lights, teaching care and responsibility. Elders watch, ensuring steadiness rather than speed. As the night progresses, lights are not extinguished abruptly. They are allowed to fade naturally. Some are taken indoors, others left outside to burn down safely. This matters. The ritual does not banish darkness. It coexists with it. You return home with softened vision. The world seems gentler, more navigable. Darkness has been acknowledged, not resisted. This is why light festivals endure across history. They teach that even the smallest shared light can reshape how night is experienced. Welcoming spring without rushing it. Spring is never demanded. It is invited. You feel the shift before it becomes visible. The air softens slightly. The ground responds differently beneath your feet. Sounds travel farther. These signs are subtle, but unmistakable to those who have learned to wait. The spring festival does not begin with flowers. It begins with preparation. Paths are cleared gently, not fully. Snow or debris is moved just enough to allow passage. The land is not forced awake. It is acknowledged. People gather outdoors more frequently now, even if the cold has not fully released its hold. Fires remain small. Their purpose has changed. They no longer defend against winter, they mark presence. You notice how movement changes. Steps become lighter. Work resumes cautiously. No one commits fully to planting yet. The ritual exists to signal readiness, not action. Objects associated with winter are stored deliberately. Not discarded. Not hidden. They will be needed again. Respect for cycles prevents waste. The festival often includes simple gestures. Touching soil with bare hands. Allowing fresh air to fill lungs deeply. Standing silently as the sun lingers longer in the sky. Children are encouraged to observe rather than play. This is a lesson in patience. Growth cannot be rushed without consequence. As the gathering ends, there is no celebration yet. Only acknowledgement. Spring has been noticed. And that is enough. Returning to the living world. After months of retreat, people step outward again. This festival is not marked by fire or light, but by movement. You walk farther from the settlement than you have in weeks. Paths long unused are reopened carefully. The ritual centers on reconnection. You touch bark, stone, water, elements long observed from a distance. The contact feels grounding. Real. People speak little during this festival. Nature does not require commentary. Presence is enough. In some traditions, offerings are returned rather than taken. Seeds placed into soil without expectation. Water poured back into streams. Simple gestures of reciprocity. This ritual reminds people that survival depends on relationship, not dominance. You notice how listening becomes part of the practice. Wind through branches. Water beneath ice. The land speaks quietly, and people allow space to hear it. As the walk ends, fatigue feels satisfying rather than draining. The body remembers movement. The mind steadies. This festival restores orientation. You are no longer only sheltered, you are connected. Seeds, silence, and the future held gently. Planting is not hurried. You feel the seriousness of this ritual the moment seeds are revealed. They are small. Unremarkable in appearance. Yet everyone treats them with care. The planting festival does not resemble labor. It resembles ceremony. Rows are marked slowly. Hands move deliberately. Soil is open just enough. Seeds are placed, not buried aggressively. Silence accompanies this work. Words would distract. The body understands what to do. You notice how people pause between actions. Each seed receives attention. This is not efficiency, it is intention. Children watch closely. They are not allowed to plant yet. Observation comes first. Responsibility follows. When the last seed is placed, there is no announcement. Tools are cleaned. Hands brushed gently. The ground is left undisturbed. This ritual closes with stillness. Nothing visible has changed. And yet everything has. The future has been placed into the earth carefully, without demand. As you leave the field, you carry a quiet certainty. Growth will come, not because it was commanded, but because conditions were prepared. This is the wisdom of ancient planting rituals. Trust replaces urgency. The night when questions were not answered. Some rituals are not meant to explain anything. You feel this immediately as night settles and no instructions are given. People gather as usual, but something is different. No one announces the purpose. No objects are arranged openly. The space feels intentionally incomplete. This is a night ritual of mystery. You notice how people avoid direct eye contact at first. Voices are low, fragmented. Movements are slower, as if everyone is waiting for something unspoken to reveal itself. The fire is lit later than usual. Smaller, quieter. It casts uneven shadows that move independently, creating shapes that feel almost intentional. No one comments on them. This ritual does not ask participants to understand. It asks them to observe. You sit, listening. Wind passes through the space. Leaves move. The night feels attentive. The world seems to lean inward. At certain moments, someone stands briefly, then sits again. No explanation follows. Others mirror the action minutes later. Patterns form without being declared. You begin to realize that this ritual teaches comfort with uncertainty. Nothing is clarified. Nothing is resolved. And yet, anxiety does not rise. Instead, it softens. As the night deepens, silence grows heavier, but not threatening. It feels like a container, holding unanswered questions safely. When the ritual ends, it does so without signal. People simply leave when they feel ready. You carry no answers home. Only calm. This is why mystery rituals endure. They train the mind to rest without resolution. Signs read only by those who waited. Some festivals are built around signs. Not obvious ones, but subtle changes only noticed by those who remain still long enough. You gather before dawn, wrapped against the cold. The purpose is not announced. Everyone faces the same direction, toward land or sky, depending on tradition. This ritual requires patience. You wait as light begins to shift. Clouds thin. Wind changes direction slightly. Birds appear, or do not. Nothing dramatic happens. And yet, everyone is watching closely. In this ritual, interpretation is personal. There is no leader declaring meaning. Each person observes and carries their understanding privately. A bird's flight might signal readiness. A sudden stillness might suggest caution. A sound carried farther than expected might mean nothing, or everything. You realize this ritual exists to sharpen perception. It trains attention without imposing belief. When the waiting ends, people do not compare interpretations. No consensus is required. The ritual's power lies in individual reflection held within collective silence. As activity resumes, decisions feel clearer. Not because answers were given, but because awareness was refined. This is the quiet mystery of sign rituals. Meaning emerges without being forced. Circles that were never broken. Circles appear in ancient rituals across cultures for a reason. They contain. You feel this as people gather slowly, forming a shape without instruction. No one stands at the center. No one leads. The circle closes gently, leaving nothing outside but darkness. This is a ritual of containment. Within the circle, movement changes. People speak less. Gestures become smaller. The space feels protected, separated from the world beyond. Sometimes a single object is placed in the center. A stone. A bowl of water. An unlit flame. It is not explained. It does not need to be. The circle itself is the ritual. You notice how attention turns inward. Thoughts slow. The body feels held. Whatever worries existed before the gathering lose urgency. This ritual is often used during uncertain times, before journeys, during illness, after loss. It does not solve problems. It stabilizes those who face them. As time passes, the circle loosens naturally. Gaps appear. People step away quietly. No closing words are spoken. The circle dissolves without breaking. And the calm it created lingers. This is the power of ancient circles. They create safety without walls, meaning without explanation. Dreams that were invited, not forced. There are nights when sleep is not left to chance. You sense this ritual beginning long before anyone lies down. The day slows deliberately. Voices soften earlier than usual. Fires are kept low, steady, predictable. Nothing sudden is allowed to disturb the mind. This is a night devoted to dreams. In ancient cultures, dreams are not considered random. They are treated as spaces, places one enters rather than events that happen. And like any space, they require preparation. You wash your hands and face slowly, using water drawn earlier in the day. The temperature is cool, grounding. This signals the body that the outer world is releasing its hold. Objects are arranged near sleeping areas. Simple items. Stones, branches, small bowls of water. Not talismans in the dramatic sense, but anchors. Familiar shapes that reassure the mind as it drifts. Silence deepens as night settles. Stories are avoided. Conversation is unnecessary now. The mind needs room, not stimulation. You lie down with intention. Breathing slows naturally. Attention turns inward. People believe that lying in a certain direction, toward moonlight, toward the fire's remains, guides the nature of dreams. Whether this is true matters less than the belief itself. Belief creates calm. As sleep approaches, you feel watched, not by something threatening, but by something attentive. The night feels present, aware, holding. Dreams come gently. They are not chased. They are received. When morning arrives, dreams are not immediately spoken of. They are carried quietly through the day, considered privately. Meaning, if it exists, will reveal itself slowly. This ritual teaches restraint. Dreams, like answers, cannot be demanded. They arrive when space is made. The watchers who stayed awake so others could rest. While most rituals guide people towards sleep, some require wakefulness. You feel the weight of this responsibility as night deepens. A small group remains standing while others settle. No honor is announced. No praise expected. This vigilance is quiet and accepted. This is the night watch ritual. The watchers do not patrol aggressively. They do not seek threat. Their role is presence. Awareness. Continuity. They sit or stand at the edges of the settlement, near paths, near fires kept deliberately low. Their eyes adjust to darkness. Their hearing sharpens. The night reveals its subtle movements, wind, animals, distant water. You realize that staying awake changes perception. Thoughts slow. The mind becomes receptive rather than reactive. Time stretches. Minutes lose meaning. Watchers are taught to observe without interpretation. A sound is just a sound. A shadow is just a shadow. Calm prevents imagination from escalating. This ritual protects not only the sleeping, but the watchers themselves. It trains steadiness. It cultivates patience. Occasionally, watchers rotate. Movement is slow and deliberate. No sudden transitions. Continuity matters more than endurance. As dawn approaches, the ritual closes naturally. The watchers do not announce success. The absence of disruption is confirmation enough. When the rest of the community wakes, the night has passed unnoticed. And that is the point. This ritual teaches a subtle truth: safety is often invisible, maintained quietly by those who expect no recognition. Knowledge that was never written down. Some wisdom is not meant to be recorded. You sense this ritual's gravity the moment you enter the space. Fewer people are present. Voices are nearly absent. The environment feels intentionally minimal. This is where knowledge is shared quietly. Elders sit close to the fire, not above it. There is no hierarchy displayed. Those who listen do so without interruption. Questions are not asked immediately. Teaching here is indirect. Stories are told without conclusion. Observations are shared without explanation. Silence fills the spaces between words, allowing meaning to form naturally. You notice how the body responds. Listening requires stillness. Movement distracts. Attention deepens. This ritual exists because some understanding cannot survive repetition. Writing fixes meaning too rigidly. Speaking allows flexibility. The knowledge shared here often concerns balance, how to recognize when effort becomes force, when patience becomes avoidance, when silence becomes withdrawal. Nothing is summarized. You leave carrying fragments. Images. Feelings. Partial insights. These will combine over time, shaped by experience. This ritual trusts the listener. It assumes wisdom emerges gradually, through reflection rather than instruction. And as you step back into the night, the world feels layered. Meaning exists beneath surface actions, waiting to be noticed. Journeys taken only by moonlight. Some journeys were never meant to be taken under the sun. You feel this ritual begin as daylight fades completely. No departure is announced. No destination is spoken aloud. Only a quiet understanding passes among those who will walk. Torches are not carried. Fire would dominate the night. Instead, the moon is trusted to guide the path. You step forward with others, feet finding the ground carefully. The world feels different without sunlight. Distances stretch. Sounds carry farther. Every movement matters more. This journey is slow by design. Walking by moonlight requires patience. Shadows blur edges. Familiar paths feel unfamiliar again. This is intentional. The ritual exists to break routine perception. You notice how attention sharpens. Breathing becomes steady. Thoughts quiet. The body adjusts to darkness without panic. The group does not speak. Occasionally, everyone stops at the same moment, as if responding to an unseen signal. The pause is not explained. It does not need to be. Listening replaces sight. These journeys often follow boundaries, rivers, ridges, forest edges. Liminal spaces where one thing becomes another. Night amplifies their meaning. When the walk ends, there is no gathering, no reflection. People separate quietly, returning home alone. The journey is complete when it is no longer shared. This ritual teaches trust in limited vision, and in intuition over certainty. Choosing not to ask the future. Some rituals exist to resist prediction. You feel this one begin when questions are intentionally avoided. No one asks what comes next. No signs are sought. No omens interpreted. This is the ritual of restraint. People gather in familiar spaces, but nothing is arranged to reveal meaning. Objects remain untouched. Fires burn steadily without ceremony. You notice how uncomfortable this feels at first. The human mind wants certainty. It reaches outward instinctively. This ritual teaches the opposite. Instead of asking the future for answers, people turn inward. They sit quietly. They breathe. They observe their own reactions to not knowing. Time passes slowly. No guidance is offered. No conclusions drawn. The ritual's power lies in absence. As the gathering continues, tension softens. Acceptance replaces anticipation. The future becomes less threatening when it is not interrogated. When the ritual ends, people leave without discussion. Nothing has been learned. And yet, calm remains. This ritual exists because constant seeking creates exhaustion. Sometimes, not knowing is the most sustainable position. Accepting what could not be named. There are moments when explanation fails. You feel this ritual's gravity as people gather without purpose stated. No symbols are displayed. No actions rehearsed. The space feels intentionally undefined. This is the ritual of acceptance. People sit or stand where they feel drawn. No formation is required. The absence of structure is itself the structure. Silence dominates, but not emptily. It feels weighted, intentional. You notice how thoughts arise, and pass, without attachment. The mind learns to release them rather than pursue them. Occasionally, someone shifts position. A breath deepens. A hand touches the ground. These small movements become the only expressions allowed. The ritual lasts as long as it needs to. When it ends, there is no marker. People simply feel complete. This ritual exists because not everything can be resolved, understood, or explained. And peace depends on recognizing that truth. As you leave, the world feels lighter, not because burdens are gone, but because they no longer demand answers. Returning from mystery without losing it. After nights filled with silence, shadow, and unspoken meaning, something subtle begins to change. You feel it not as an ending, but as a gentle loosening. The rituals of mystery do not disappear suddenly. They recede slowly, like mist lifting without direction. Morning arrives again. People resume familiar tasks, but the rhythm has shifted. Movements are slower. Voices softer. There is no rush to explain what was experienced. Explanation would flatten it. You notice how mystery lingers in ordinary actions. A pause before lifting a tool. A moment of stillness before speaking. These are not habits, they are residues. The community does not mark the return to daily life with ceremony. That would break the transition. Instead, continuity is preserved quietly. Fires are tended. Food prepared. Paths walked. But attention has changed. People listen more closely. They notice small variations in sound, light, and behavior. What was learned in silence is now applied subtly, without announcement. This is how ancient cultures integrated the mysterious. They did not separate ritual from life. They allowed one to inform the other gradually. Mystery was not confined to festivals, it softened the edges of everyday existence. You feel calmer now, not because answers were found, but because the need for answers has diminished. The unknown feels less intrusive. More companionable. This ritual of return teaches balance. Mystery must be visited, but not inhabited permanently. Too much uncertainty dissolves structure. Too much structure suffocates intuition. The wisdom lies in movement between the two. As the day progresses, laughter returns lightly. Work continues. Sleep comes easily. The ritual has completed its work. Not by changing the world, but by changing how the world is met. Teaching without explaining. Rituals survive only when they are passed on. But ancient cultures understood something crucial: teaching does not always require instruction. You observe this as children move within the community. They are not called aside. Not lectured. Not corrected sharply. Instead, they are included, quietly, consistently. During festivals, children are positioned where they can see, not lead. They watch hands prepare objects. They feel the rhythm of walking, waiting, sitting. Their bodies learn before their minds ask questions. You notice how adults rarely answer directly when children ask why something is done. Instead, they say, "This is how it is done." Repetition replaces explanation. This method teaches patience. It prevents rituals from becoming rigid beliefs. Children grow into understanding rather than memorizing it. Over time, they learn where silence belongs. When movement matters. When restraint is stronger than action. You see a child copy an elder's posture near the fire. Another imitates the way water is poured slowly, deliberately. No correction is offered. The body remembers. This is how rituals adapt without breaking. Each generation absorbs what fits their time. What does not fit fades naturally. Nothing is forced to remain unchanged. This fluid transmission is why ancient rituals endure for centuries. They are not frozen. They breathe. As night falls again, children sleep easily. Their dreams are shaped not by fear or command, but by familiarity and rhythm. They do not yet understand the rituals. And that is exactly why they work. Why these rituals were never forgotten. Not all traditions survive time. Many disappear quietly, without conflict or loss. They simply no longer serve the people who carried them. And yet, these festivals, these rituals of fire, silence, light, and waiting, remain. You understand why as you step back and observe them as a whole. They do not promise control. They do not demand belief. They do not threaten consequence. They offer structure in uncertainty. In a world shaped by seasons, illness, darkness, and chance, rituals provided orientation. They told people when to gather, when to rest, when to wait, and when to act. They created pauses where life might otherwise overwhelm. You realize that these rituals are not ancient because they are old. They are ancient because they address needs that never disappeared. The need to mark time. The need to share silence. The need to face the unknown without panic. As centuries pass, forms change. Fires become candles. Circles become rooms. Silence becomes stillness. But the core remains. Even now, people create modern rituals without naming them. Evening routines. Quiet walks. Shared meals. Moments of pause before sleep. These are echoes. And as the night settles once more, you feel connected, not to a specific culture or time, but to a pattern older than language. The rituals continue. Not because they were preserved deliberately, but because they were necessary. When rituals quietly entered everyday life. As time moves forward, something subtle happens. Rituals stop announcing themselves. You no longer see them gathered only around fires or marked nights. Instead, they begin to weave themselves into ordinary moments, so gently that they almost disappear. You notice it in how people start their days. A pause before work begins. A moment of stillness before lifting a tool. A shared silence before the first meal. These gestures are not named. They are not celebrated. But they are rituals. Ancient festivals once required preparation, gathering, ceremony. Now, their essence survives in fragments, small, repeatable actions that ground daily life. The fire becomes a hearth. The circle becomes a table. The silent night vigil becomes a moment of listening before sleep. You realize that rituals did not fade because people forgot them. They faded because people no longer needed them to be visible. As communities grew more complex, as days filled with tasks and responsibilities, rituals adapted. They shortened. They softened. They hid themselves inside routine. This allowed them to survive. You walk through a settlement where no festival is being held, yet ritual is everywhere. Hands are washed with care. Food is shared deliberately. Evening arrives slowly, respected rather than ignored. Children learn these rhythms without instruction. They sense when to lower their voices. When to wait. When to rest. The knowledge is no longer ceremonial, it is instinctive. This is the final transformation of ritual. It becomes habit. And habit, when shaped by awareness, carries the same power as ceremony, without requiring attention. As night approaches, you feel how these quiet rituals prepare the mind for rest. They signal safety. Continuity. Belonging. Nothing dramatic happens. And that is precisely why it works. Time returns to a circle. As the story of rituals reaches its quiet end, you begin to see time differently. Not as a line moving forward, but as a circle returning gently to itself. The festivals you have witnessed, the fires, the silence, the waiting, the renewal, were never meant to lead somewhere else. They were meant to bring people back to where they already were. Present. Together. Aware. You feel this understanding settle slowly. There is no revelation. No sudden clarity. Only a deep sense of familiarity. Ancient people did not celebrate rituals to escape life. They used them to remain inside it fully, to slow it, to hold it, to make it bearable and meaningful. And as centuries pass, the world changes. Structures rise. Beliefs shift. Technologies appear. Yet the human need these rituals served remains unchanged. The need to pause. The need to gather. The need to rest without guilt. You realize that every generation recreates these rituals in its own language. Some light candles. Some walk quietly at night. Some sit in silence before sleep. The form changes. The purpose does not. As the circle completes itself, the night feels softer. Less demanding. The weight of time lifts slightly. You are no longer moving through history. History is moving through you. The night holds everything that remains. Now, nothing more needs to be said. The rituals have completed their work. You feel it as the world grows quieter, not empty, but complete. The night does not ask anything from you. It does not demand attention or understanding. It simply holds. The same way it held ancient fires. The same way it held silent circles. The same way it held those who waited, watched, and rested long before you. You allow your breathing to slow. Thoughts no longer need to connect or resolve. They drift, then settle. This is what rituals ultimately prepared people for. Rest without fear. Stillness without absence. Sleep without urgency. As you lie within the calm shaped by centuries of shared human rhythm, you are not alone. You are accompanied by every quiet moment that came before. The night remains. And you are free to rest within it.